Today we're going to talk about the collapsing European Union, more specifically Greece, and I have a special guest with me today.
Well, my name is Nick, and it was a really wonderful experience because we just met and then we started to talk about things that we realized were of common interest. And then we say, hold on, let's talk about it on camera. So we are here. To me, this is the way I see it. It's not a coincidence and it's not a mistake. If there is a collapse, I'm not naive enough to think what maybe the majority thinks. I think it's a plan. It's a plan because there are big interests. If a country has a problem, someone makes money out of that because a country cannot collapse. But you know, Greece is full of petrol and natural gas, enough for the whole Europe. And instead of Greek governments taking advantage of this, we import petrol, we import natural gas, we keep it there, and instead of becoming somehow rich out of these resources, we manage to have loans from IMF that makes you a financial slave forever. But even this loan, it came to the parliament as emergency, and it was these 700 pages that the parliament members had to read and sign it. It was given to them the day before in a CD. They had to sign it the next day, and they did. So what can I say? In Greece, we have a saying, I'm not sure if I can say it on camera, but say, your signature and something else, you have to know when you put it and where you put it. So when you do this, and you make this country a financial slave under the terms that if you cannot pay back this money, we pay back by natural resources, then I cannot be naive. That's how I see it, Geralt.
So do you think this is happening because Greece is under the EU's umbrella and they are pushing hard for green energy? I mean, like you say, the resources are present in Greece,
yes,
right? They are very much here.
This is clear. We know that.
Honestly, I didn't know that.
Yes.
I thought that from a gas perspective, Greece was a poor country. Yeah. I had no idea because you don't hear anything about it on the news.
But the news, what we hear on the news is what they want us to hear on the news. And right. What comes first on Google is what they want to come first on Google. And if they don't want that, they just fix the algorithms and then the news are there, but you will never find them because it looks more democratic. We don't delete the news, but we make it so you won't find it. So it is, talking about natural resources, talking about petrol and gas, natural gas, this is not an opinion. These are facts. Anyone can cross-check if that is like this. It's like saying the sea is nearby. It's not my opinion. The sea is something that can be cross-checked. So this is clear since I was young. And the ones that would come, the politicians that would talk about it would not be in the scene. So I don't know enough to say how they manage to bypass the fact that, hold on, their resources are there. But I do think that if they choose to hide it, to bypass it, or to have loans instead, it's a plan. The ones that rule the country are Harvard graduates, some of them. They should be able to take a wise decision that I think primary school kids would be able to do so. Mm-hmm. You have money under your house, you cannot be a beggar. If you are, it's a plan. And they manipulate the news in a way that the people will vote again and again for the ones that actually destroy their future, destroy their country, betray their country in a very scientific way. But if you say things like that, then you may consider to be fascist, extreme wing, right wing, or things like that. I don't see myself this way. I don't need anything like that. And I think this is beyond left or right. This is just to be able to see what is going on. You take loans if you cannot make it. But if you destroy the economy, like if you let big public companies to be bankrupt when there is no antagonism for them, it's in order to sell them dirty cheap like they did, for example, with the National Railway. I think it was sold. Look, it's a huge infrastructure, no antagonist till that time. and steal. And I think they managed to have it bankrupt in one way or another, and they sold it for 10 or 20 million euros. Even the main building of this organization costs more in the center of Athens. All right? So they sold it like that. They sold it at the cost of one football player, Geralt. So
what I want to add here, like to see a similarity in America is actually not very difficult. In the US, there is this car dependency fact. Everywhere you go, you have to have a car.
Yeah.
There's little to no transportation outside the two largest cities, right? New York. I don't know what the second largest city actually is, considering the whole metro, but the public transportation is really only good in New York and maybe Los Angeles. That's it. They don't want people to use public transportation. They want people to use cars in the US because cars need gasoline. You know, there's a whole industry built around it. They don't want people to be like here, you know, where there's more public transportation available than in the US. Anyway, this is very, very different than what you're pointing out. Now, how many Greek do you think are aware of this fact? That maybe some things are hidden within the establishment of Greece?
You know, the thing is that what you think depends on your news sources. And the news that come to you are the ones that come from the companies that have the license to broadcast all over Greece. And the few companies that have this license, they are more financial interests with these companies. So the ones that are able to broadcast are the ones that are always in one way or another linked to the government. Actually, they have the power to elect the governments. You have to search outside of the news that come to you. You have to go and find the news. And for these people, I think, are a bit lazy. They would turn on the TV, which is licensed to be there in order to manipulate the news. And out of this information, people will go and vote for the ones that think they are as they are presented to be. They are going to be scared if needed. I mean, they have a guidance that is actually the government cares for you more than your mother. I don't believe that. So if you search for the news, you have a different understanding of reality, you live a different life, you make different decisions, and then you may also realize that when you vote, votes are processed by a private company, not just in Greece. A private company with anonymous shares. I would prefer elections to be processed by the Ministry of Internal Affairs, with all party representatives to be there, in a more transparent way. Because if this is going through a private company with an algorithm no one else has access to, the way they process the results. And actually in Greece, when they were asked by a parliament member to provide the algorithm at the parliament, they refused. That is my news. So I think I can be naive with that as well. By the way, one more thing regarding elections as it comes to my mind. If you go online to the Ministry of Finance and you see the results of the elections, you can zoom up to a certain area, but you cannot go up to the point that you see a specific election center and see the results of an election center. If you are not able to see the results at the level of the election center, no one can track what is presented, because there is a legal representative in every election center. There is a party representative in every election center. If they would provide the results at that level, we could cross-check if what comes out is what we voted for. I can't be naive. I can't take anything like that. If I don't have access to this, I don't know what is that. I don't have to. Actually, the last elections, I just at 2 o'clock in the morning, before the final results, I went online and I checked the political party with the lowest votes. And it's a funny guy that is present many times at the elections. He had 3 votes at that time from all over Greece. He had 3 votes. When I woke up in the morning, he had 1 vote. There was a discount. I think this is not possible, because it could be 1 more but cannot be 1 less. 1 vote more I can understand, because votes keep being processed. But how is that? So I think we have many things to think about and reconsider what we are presented as truth for anything about the economy, about democracy, about the elections, about our future, about our health, about the environment. And what happens in Greece, I think it's more or less happens in a global level. I mean, we have to be scared that CO2 is a catastrophe. There are scientists, I have no opinion on that, but I read scientists that have a very different opinion about that.
And they are silent. Being silenced.
They do not exist.
One thing I wanted to ask you too, which has affected Athens, is air pollution. And you know that there were wildfires here this year, actually. Surprisingly, something very similar happened in the Canary Islands, especially the island of Tenerife. Last year, there were wildfires, bad ones. Now, what's your take on this? Do you think this is artificial? Do you think that it's really the cause of global warming? What's your opinion?
Oh, my opinion. I'll tell you. First, I would not laugh about fires because my first reaction was to laugh. But I have to, this is a very painful story. So my laugh was not about what the catastrophe the fire creates. My first thought was that the Greek government changed the laws, and when there is a forest, after being burned, next day you can have a license to install windmills. That was not before. And in order to install windmills, you cannot do it when there is a forest. So you cannot destroy the forest to do so. But if it's burned, then you can. And it is again a fact that in many areas that has been fires before, they are now full of windmills legally. So you do not put a plant instead there where it was burned. You put a windmill. No one is talking about make it green again. So there are interests that some companies will become rich if we have one forest less. So again, I can say that, of course, a fire can happen by mistake, but there are too many and they start at the same time. So this can be a provocative action, but I have to think who has profit out of that, especially when laws change immediately and then you see these huge windmills on the way to be installed there instead of trees. So one more thought I would have is, look, these governments, Greece is a country of heavy taxation. Aren't they able to buy the resources they need for the firemen to do their job? Why they don't do that? It is for a reason. It is for a reason. This is something that is a huge problem. People have been burned. Families have been eliminated. People have lost their life, their house, their belongings, everything. It's a huge pain. And no one is responsible for whatever happens. But let me ask you, have you ever heard that in Greece there is a law that ministers that actually take our future in their hands with their decisions, government members and ministers, they passed a law that you cannot go legally against them for what they do when they are in power. They have legal immunity. So if there is something obvious they should do, or if there is something which is wrong or a mistake, you cannot go against them legally. It's the law. This is in Greece. This is happening right now in this century.
Well, thank you for sharing your perspective on these issues, and we're going to have more to talk about now, right?